afternoon, and this special call meeting will come to order. Leading us in our pledge this afternoon will be Ms. Moore.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Welcome to all of our guests this afternoon. We're certainly pleased to have had you for several days. I hope you've enjoyed your visit and have felt welcomed, and I pray we've been very cooperative. And at this time, we'll turn this over to Mr. Odom, our Director of Schools.
Thank you, Mr. Blair. Glad to see principals and office staff with us today to hear the report. I'll not take up a lot of time because you need to hear from the report today. Our people spent considerable time and analysis in putting the report together, and I think you'll be pleased today. But I'd like to introduce Mr. Edlow Barker, Dr. Edlow Barker, who is chairing the Committee for Advanced Ed today. And if you'll step to that mic, I think it'll pick you up.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Director and members of the school board. Had the pleasure of meeting several, but not everybody. Certainly glad to have you here for this presentation. You mentioned you pray that we've been treated nice and whatever. I told Mr. Odom just a few minutes ago that it was not only a personal pleasure, but it was a professional pleasure to have been here. I'll elaborate on that in a few minutes. I'm driving a new vehicle, so first, a little bit about who Advanced Ed is. We're representing Advanced Ed. None of us are employees of Advanced Ed, but we are a volunteer fact-finding committee, if you will, for Advanced Ed. Advanced Ed is the #1 educational community in the world when it comes to accreditation. You see 32,000 institutions, 20 million students. We're in 70 countries across the world, maybe 71, maybe 69, the way things are going in the world these days. We used to know of this organization by the name of SACS, Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. It's still very active at the collegiate level. SACS is still involved at the K-12 level, but it's under the umbrella of Advanced Ed. Like most anything, you leverage your power by joining with other associations. So the Southern Association, the South Atlantic area, went with the North Central Association, the schools in the Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Illinois corridor not too long ago, as well as with the schools in the Northwest Association, the Washington, Oregon, Montana schools and so forth like that, to be an even bigger organization with supports, and they have outreach into the world, as I said, internationally. The same protocol or procedure that we used in Rutherford County is used throughout the states and overseas. It's adapted, of course, slightly for different situations, but it looks at the system that you have in place, because school or any business doesn't just happen. It has to be planned and cared for and brought along. So it looks at systematic procedures. Does it happen systematically? And most importantly, is it sustainable over time? Is it going to be good tomorrow? Is it going to be that good or better 2 years from now? That's what we're all about. It's not just today. So we look at building capacity, and of course we look at effectiveness and continuous improvement. There are 3 areas that we focus on. These are really called domains, and the report that you'll get a briefing on today is centered in 3 domains. First and foremost is teaching and learning. That's what we're all about. So we'll be looking at what impacts the classroom and student success. We also look at the leadership of the district or any organization, which is so important. And then lastly, but not least necessarily, but lastly in that list, the use of resources and the sustainability of those resources. It takes money to keep the lights on so the teachers can teach and students can learn, for example. We brought in a team, and we spent a lot of hours talking with people and reading documents, but we also spent a lot of hours sitting and looking at each other and say, what does this mean? What's really going on when we see this and we hear this? So that's where the professional judgment comes in, and I'm going to introduce the team here in just a minute. We are required, the third bullet down, we are required to leave you with an improvement priority. Even if you were the very best district there has ever been, there must be at least one requirement for you to do to get even better. We will have one for you. We also can, not required, identify a powerful practice, something that we see that is so good that we think you could take it to any show, the National School Boards Conference, and anybody in any state could copy and say, wow, that's a way to do it. An opportunity for improvement are suggestions, things that you might want to consider that may have application in the district as well. And then next we have the Index of Educational Quality. That's the grade, if you will, if there is one. There is a numeric assessment. Your district did one in their self-assessment. We did one as well. It's different than your district did because different eyes perceive things differently. But we will have that for you. It's called the Index of Educational Quality. It's a good tool, and I'll explain a little bit about that. And then lastly, we do have a recommendation regarding your application for accreditation. Had an excellent team with me, and I'd like to introduce the members of the team. Miss Debbie Wiles is right here, our vice chair. You've either got to stand or wave. All right. She's a supervisor of pre-K through elementary education there in Murray County, nearby. Ms. Colleen Goss. And Colleen happens to be the Associate State Director of Advance Ed. And in a minute, I'll tell you why that was particularly helpful for her. She's been at the State Department and has a lot of connections and a lot of insights that she shared with us. Dr. Jackie Scarborough from Gatlin. She is currently the Teacher Center Supervisor in Sumner County. Ms. Wanda Berry is Federal Programs Director. She said she was partly retired and partly not, but I don't know. She is in Hickman County Schools. We had two other members, Ms. Christy Bedell from Tavernier, Florida. That's down in the Keys area. She's a high school assistant principal there. Unfortunately, she had to leave. Family emergencies do come up. There was an issue, a crisis, if you will, and she had to leave Monday. She was here with us Sunday, did have to leave, and we missed her participation for the rest of the time. She is still a member of our team. Never happened before. I had one team member get sick partway way through, just coughing and whatever, and had to excuse herself. I've never had this. Strangely, lightning does strike twice. This is Dr. Dorothy Cook, a retired educator from several school districts in Florida. She was called away for a relative who was very ill, and it was an emergency situation. So we had two people leave us Monday morning and then Monday evening, and we're very sorry for that. However, those were our team members from Florida, but we have Ms. Becky Wilkinson, who hasn't gotten sick yet, or a relative hadn't been called. She's an elementary principal from Clay County and has quite a bit of experience with these teams as well. Because of the two people being called out on Monday, and because Colleen is a associate director, she knows a lot of people who are who are qualified to do the Elliott observations. These are the classroom observations, which was our task on Tuesday. And we really wanted to have as many observations as we had planned to. So between her and Debbie, our associate lead evaluator, they put together a number of lists, made a lot of phone calls, and were able to get in two people who are very qualified, experienced, and helped us only with observations. And I had never been to the schools I observed, so that shouldn't take away from the team aspect. They did not participate in the rest of the team deliberations. Dr. Bobby Hurley from Mount Juliet, I understand, is nearby. He's a former educator, administrator, and a use of educational data specialist. He works with other folks, other districts, on the use of educational data. He came in and did some observations for us, and very pleased that he was able to because of his quality background as well. Also, Mr. Mark Beal, assistant superintendent or assistant director from Houston County Schools. I think they were on spring break, and he was able to be persuaded to come by. I think we owe him a lot, and I'm very pleased that we were able to get him in. My name is Ed Barker. I'm a retired school administrator from Richmond, Virginia. And part of the design of Advance Ed is to mix the teams with in-state and out-of-state folks because of different perspectives and practices and expectations. We all have similar frustrations with laws and mandates and unfunded mandates and so forth in every state, but it's a good balance, and we think it worked well for you. One thing we did was listen to a lot of folks from this office, including your director. We also listened to parents. We also listened to students. We listened to a lot of folks. We interviewed. These are the people we interviewed, not just passed in the hall and so forth. You see the numbers there. I usually like to divide out the number of school administrators from district administrators, because surely you don't have 73 folks in this office that we interviewed, but this includes all of the assistant principals and principals that we did talk to. We weren't able to pull those numbers or separate those numbers. 85 folks in the buildings who deliver instruction to your kids, 24 students, mostly at the secondary level, as you can imagine. A very good number, and we appreciate the staff of your district for pulling these together for us. Before we get into the specifics, there are a few thoughts that I will take with me as we leave and drive home or fly home, things that we'll remember a month from now when we see you on the front page of the paper for doing something outstanding. We'll say, I know that, I know why it's happening. Here are a couple thoughts, and remember we have other specifics to mention a little bit, but these are general thoughts that will show up in the report. First of all, school resource officers, thank you for taking care of the children and some people's grandchildren. I've got 5 little ones that are in schools right now, and I want somebody taking care of them. We asked every parent, we asked staff members, do you feel safe and secure to do your job and to send your children to school every morning? Absolutely. There was some concern about a sidewalk here or a fence there, or whatever, safety issues like that. But as far as the security from outside influences or inside influences, your people felt very safe. And one thing that was mentioned over and over again were school resource officers. And that's not free. We know that. That's a commitment, and apparently a good agreement between you and the local sheriff's office or wherever you get your resource officers from. But that is well worth it in our opinion. Autonomy is a concept appreciated by Advance Ed, and we always ask about it. Do principals feel like they have the right or the freedom to do their job and make things work in their building as they see fit? The general response we heard, yes, as long as we're within the direction that the district is going. We keep people informed, but we can make those day-to-day decisions and don't have to wait for the school board to say yes, 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 or no, no, no. Don't have to wait for the superintendent or other people in this office. We know what we're doing, they know what we're doing, and we keep everybody informed. Within the direction of the district, we applaud that, and we think you have it to a high degree. We're not just mentioning things that are happening one place or another. Very impressed with your mentoring of your new teachers, of your new administrators, of your aspiring administrators, and of your weak teachers. We all have weak teachers. We coach, we teach, we mentor, we hold hands. Some of the positions that you have implemented recently to go into the schools to help people do their job better, great. But the mentoring by staff members in the school, taking care of one another, helping each one another, it all seeks to bring brings the level of all ships up. We have data. We have lots of data. Knowing what to do with it is critical, and then doing it and making the student the beneficiary of us having and knowing what to do with that data is priceless. There are a lot of demands on the classroom teachers these days. As you know, there's more to teach and less time to teach because we have other things to be doing as well. We applaud your effort in this area. We know we never get to that area where we are totally perfect with it. It's a need to continue to train and whatever, but that helps us make decisions for the right reason. We often think we know what's going on with the child, but the data can tell us for sure. It will help clarify pictures. Lastly, very impressed with, I think you took action yesterday to authorize the building of a new building. That doesn't just happen. It doesn't just happen yesterday. There was some planning going in a long time before that. We understand there's some purchasing or consideration of purchasing property ahead of needed construction times. The long-range planning for resources needed to house the teachers, pay the electric bills. You can't plan 1 year at a time. You have to have those resources lined up and knowing what you can depend on. The long-range planning that we see going on in the district is not only critical, but it's being done well here, and we applaud that for you. Now go back to the domains, the first domain, and we all think it's probably what is really critical because it's what gets measured and what gets in the paper. Teaching and learning, yes, test scores, how the students are doing. Looking at student performance. We do look at the grades and achievement scores that you reported to us. Quality of instruction in the classroom, therefore the Elliott scores and so forth. Learner, the family engagement, so forth like that. You see what we got there. This is standard 1 and 3 for your staff members who worked with these. First, our Elliott scores. Elliott is an acronym for the observation tool that we use to go into the classrooms. And you'll see there are 7 rows. Each is an area or a domain. Equitable learning environment, meaning the student at the front of the room, in the back of the room, or the boys or the girls or whoever. Everybody has an equitable opportunity in the class. There's enough materials to go around. The fourth one there, an active learning environment. We look for classrooms that are engaging, where students, they can be sitting down, but they're really engaged. Or elementary classrooms particularly, where kids are up and moving around and enjoying learning, and sometimes they don't even realize they're learning, but they are. Number 6, well-managed learning environment. That talks about behavior, and we saw some well-behaved kids in your schools. The last one I'll point, you'll notice that it's low compared to the others. Digital learning, this is talking about using technology in their learning, and the key with advanced ed, this is students using technology, not the teacher, the students using technology. Now, the numbers on the far right-hand side, AEN, that's the Advanced Ed Network. All the schools across the country who use this same tool, who go through district accreditation, this is the average of those scores. And it's on a 1 to 4 scale. That's why you don't see a 10 or a 5 or whatever. It's between 1.00 and 4, 4 being the very top. We observed in 8 schools, and I will mention we didn't just go and draw names out of a hat. We strategically picked schools. With Mr. Zago's assistance, we looked at 8 schools, which would give us a cross-section, a representation of your district. We wanted urban, rural, large, small, new, pink, green, everything, to give us a good cross-section, and we think we did that. Visited 8 schools, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. We were divided up, so we had team members going to 2 schools each. We did 102 observations. Our instrument calls for a 20-minute observation, so we hit the ground running. We take about a minute in between, and hopefully we get time for lunch in between the 2 schools. But we think we got a good picture of what was going on in your classes. The numbers for Elliott for the district are shown in red. reflection, you'll notice that the numbers are slightly below the national average. And I suspect it's because of the time of year. I understand y'all have missed some school, and yet testing is coming right around the corner, and spring break. We saw a lot of practice and focus on the TCAP, which is coming right away. And that is not bad. We have to perform on that test. Might be other thoughts that your principals will have. These are the numbers we got. I will mention in the digital learning, the numbers are significantly lower. We saw very little use of technology by students. There was a focus on labs, and we did go into several labs, and of course that counts, but it only counts as one classroom observation. Yes, they were in the lab. Most of the classrooms we went to did not use the technology in their class unless it was a BYOD or a bring your own device or a handheld calculator. Very, very little of the other, for whatever that's worth. We have a finding in your instruction domain, and this is regarding a practice that we heard about before we got here. It is very current in the literature, very powerful, and we see it as a powerful implementation in the district. That's your professional learning communities. Teachers, principals, people in this building working together to focus on their task at hand. Sometimes two heads are smarter than one. That's the thought about it. Collaborative learning process where we work together, identify problems, come to consensus, and move forward. It does lead to continuous improvement, and we think that you've got it going. Somebody said it was PLC, not the light version, right? It's being done well. Another finding in this area is an opportunity for improvement, a recommendation for you, no requirement. This is regarding a practice that Advance Ed has discovered is critical. We see it in the national news. Some students have a terrible home life. Some students with a wonderful home life get lost and they stray, and we don't notice it until it's too late. We don't want to lose any of our kids. We want to make sure that if somebody's coming to school and there's been a terrible incident at home, that somebody notices it. We want to make sure that if somebody doesn't come to school, we notice it right away, and I know that child's background. I better call and find out right away what's going on. Children are tender. Even our high school kids are tender. They don't want to admit it, but they have emotional and developmental needs that we need to take care of, and an adult advocate. Many schools have ways to go about it. We're suggesting that you formalize a structure so that no child, it's not good enough to say we take care of 95% of our kids. We're talking about no child, not no child left behind, but no child has gone unnoticed in our school that we can help. The next domain is the leadership capacity. This talks about the purpose and direction of the school district and the leadership, both from the board and your director and principals, your stakeholder engagement. We have a powerful practice. We were very impressed with what we read, what we heard about, and then what we saw in our interviews as well, both from the leadership of the board, acting together, working together, having a focus, not always the case, and a director of schools who sets the tone. We were very impressed. We had 5:20 Sunday night when we sat with Mr. Odom. We knew what he was all about, and that's kids and improving kids' performance, and that we think that's essential, and we really like it. We think it rubs off because we see that same thing in your principals, your school leadership, and that rubs off on your teachers, that rubs off on your kids. It doesn't stop. If you have a tone in the district set from the top, you all and your director, we think that is excellent, and we think that is worthy of a powerful practice as well, because it's not always the case. and you can show people how to do it. Doesn't cost money to do it. It's an attitude. An opportunity for improvement. We heard from some of your data on school offerings, school programs, that not all programs are available to students in this school that are available to a comparable school or a school at the same level in another area. And we're looking at equity. We heard this loud and clear from several parents that we spoke to, not all, but those who had been impacted by not having access to a certain program. We heard loud and clear from them. Now, we're fully aware that you've got rural schools, more urban schools, you got big schools, small schools. They're not always going to be equal, but equitable access to programs. We're recommending that you take steps to look at that and see if there's any way you can improve the access for all of your kids. An improvement priority is engaging your stakeholders. We are impressed with your publicity that you share with the district. Yes, we heard from several parents. They never tell us what's going on. But I knew what was going on from Virginia because I see your website and it's very well done. Your school websites are very well done. We see the newsletters. We know you have other use of media. So if a parent wants to know they can find out what's going on. What we're talking about, however, is gathering their thoughts and bringing it in. How do we know what parents really want, really think, and furthermore, how can we bring them in and have them feel like they're a player in the operation of the school system? How can they be a partner with us so that they feel a part of the ownership in the success of the district or the failure of the district? We think there's great power there if they are more involved and we know what they're doing or saying and thinking. The third domain is resource utilization. Obviously, we've got to run our schools and keep them safe and keep them moving and keep them in good repair. This talks about the allocation and use of resources, sustainability of those resources, and I already talked about your long-range planning. This, I don't think, comes as a surprise to you. The area of technology is a standard within advanced ed. We feel like the research is replete with the value of instructional technology in the hands of a talented or a well-trained teacher and a student having access to those types of technologies. There are operational needs for the district as well, and we have to meet state mandates for certain programs, whether it be testing or whether it be student management systems and reporting and whatever. There are all sorts of needs. We know you have an infrastructure. I've seen part of it. I've talked about part of it. I've heard about part of it. It needs to grow with the size of the district and with the growing demands on the district. We know that you have some equipment in the schools. We know there's age on some of that equipment, and unfortunately you buy it brand new today. It's not brand new a year from now. We know that. But we are we are requiring you to improve the instructional infrastructure, both for instruction and operation. But it's up to you to find out how to do that. We don't have a magic wand, and we have no money. We can't require you to spend money. But there are ways to improve this and improve it so that you can operate more efficiently as well as students can learn more effectively. Okay. Moving to the next part of our findings, the Educational Index of Educational Quality, we call it IEQ. This is a product of advanced ed. The thing that I like about it is that you will get a score in those three areas, those three domains, that you can compare with districts throughout Tennessee. You contact your state office, and hopefully they will share with you some of those numbers of a district who is a little bit better than you. And you must, I want to get better. How can I know that? We do this with students do it. How can I do better? How can I make an A next time? It's a nice tool for you to be able to compare what you're doing and work towards improvement. Again, a chart, IEQ, Educational Index of Quality. It's composed of 4 numbers, and I've put over on the far right-hand side the numbers. That overall score up top, and again, these are the network averages. All of the districts, not in Tennessee, but in the nation, who've gone through this process. The bottom 3 numbers make up that overall number, but that's not a mathematical average. There are more components to the first standard there, domain teaching and learning. There are a lot more factors that go into that, so therefore that one is weighted a little more heavy than the others. So don't try to figure mathematically what the average is. It's just figured by the computer that we that we deal with. Again, the scale is 100 to 400. Sounds very similar to the Elliott, but for clarity, they give you a few more decimal points to to work with. The numbers that the team came up for your district are on the board. My personal observation is congratulations. These are good numbers. They are well above the average across the country. The other part is that they are very compact. All 3 of those numbers at the bottom are close to one another, so indicating that you have a well-balanced operation, not one strength pulling along another department, if you will, but you've got a real balance there. Obviously, the higher is the leadership capacity, but they're all so close together, we think it's very commendable. And seriously, don't let me make light of it. These, for the experience I've had with teams, these are very good numbers. The average in Tennessee, I don't know, but this is the national average, and you can probably find out the average in Tennessee if Mr. Odom wants to pursue that. Congratulations on those numbers. This is a standard slide. You're not performing acceptably, you're performing extremely well, and we're proud of that for you. And based on that, we did take a formal vote. Our committee will be recommending that you receive full accreditation for the next 5-year period. Thank you. We'll caution you that we are a fact-finding committee, and what we say doesn't always go. So it is will be decided by the national office. It goes to the state office, and then goes to the National Commission, which meets again twice a year, meets again in June, so you should hear shortly after that. I would be extremely surprised if there's any question about your accreditation there. We'll remind you that the 2 improvement priorities that we cited will be asked for a response on those. They will not ask for a response on the others, but they will ask for a response on the 2 improvement priorities after 2 years. And you have plenty of time to assess what that really means and which way you want to go with that. The team appreciates your hospitality, of course, but we appreciate your professional treatment of the district and the atmosphere in which we operated. It's a lovely building, but we were with dedicated folks. We were with dedicated folks in the schools. It was a very comfortable visit, and we are very pleased to have been a part of it. And we want to congratulate you for your continuing effort towards continuous improvement, and we expect great things. Advanced Ed is available as with a number of resources beyond accreditation, but most importantly, they're focused on what we value, and that's our children and grandchildren, and as it should be. Mr. Odom, Mr. Chairman, that concludes our brief presentation. A full report will be coming in about 30 days.
Dr. Barker, I want to personally thank you and for the work that you've done. This gentleman is very attentive to time and cover, so I feel that we really got a good review from this. I thank each of you and the team for the information and the improvement ideas that you give back for us. Thank you for coming to Rutherford County. Anytime you'd like to come back, we'd like to visit you and see some things that you're doing too. very much. But I do really appreciate it. I appreciate the hard work of our team in putting this together, and our board that backs us and works with us on those things. We've got some things we can work on, and we've got some good scores in some other areas, some things that we are doing. But that's the process, and that's the purpose. Mr. Blair?
Board members, any comment? I'll finish this up with a thank you. We actually have two former teachers on the board with Mr. Jordan and Mr. Estes, and I guess you gentlemen have been through a few of these processes, and I think they fared fairly well, I suspect. So anything from the educational aspect from being on the board and having your thinking? Okay. Well, okay. Any other board member? Any comments? I'll just say on behalf of the board, again, I hope you have felt welcome. We knew your mission. We're always appreciative to have other professionals come in and inspect, dissect, if you will. In my time with this board and as a parent of children in this system, we've had, strive to improve tattooed on our forehead for years, and we're awfully proud of the professionals that are involved in our system. Certainly proud of of our director and our central office staff, and you had the opportunity to meet our administrators, and as far as we're concerned, they're beyond compare, and we work in a system that has not been overly benefited by our legislators over the last few years, so we tend to fight that battle also. But we take the compliments graciously, but we take the priorities very seriously, and we will strive to, with Mr. Odom in the central office, to make those improvements as quickly as possible. And we appreciate what you're doing for us, because we're always striving to improve our situation for our children, and we certainly do not want any of our children to be left behind. And we pray for a safe return home, and that you take from Rutherford County the most pleasant thoughts that we have been not only appreciative of your efforts here, but grateful for your efforts with us. So thank you very much. Okay. Anything else? Okay.
Some of them have planes to catch.
Well, hopefully you'll give us a few seconds after we adjourn to thank you again personally, and to wish you well on your travel, and we pray safe travel back to your home. Some have to go a little further than others, so we understand that. So again, board members, anything? Again, Mr. Odom, awfully grateful for all the administrators and the central office members that are here today to show their support. So, okay. Without any further ado, we stand adjourned.